Okay, thanks so much for attending today. I'm Glenn Wolk, Video Assistance Company. I'm the host of this event. We're going to record the content of this event, post it to social media to be impactful and informative. People do business with us because they know, like, and trust us. We have been blessed. I'm grateful for all the customers over the years. The reason I post to social media, if some of you folks have seen some of my posts, is to inform and impact our customers. Because they're not going to do business with you with social media, but at the same time, it familiarizes us with them. This is my 32nd year in business. I've got close to 1,000 connections on LinkedIn. And every one of them's by meeting them, passing out business cards, and I've been very blessed. These people here that you see today are what I call, I was telling him earlier, I called him Scotty. I said, yeah, they help me, they support me. If I could do it myself, it would be great, but I'm not going to take credit for all of these folks that have supported me over the years. So what I'd like to do is introduce each one of them first, and then kind of go over some of the trends that are happening in the industry, how everything's moving to IP. So the first gentleman I'm going to introduce is Donnie. I'm going to give like 20 seconds introduction, and then I want him to kind of fill in what I might have missed. Donnie's been a wonderful person. He has supported me back in the old days with Lightwave 3D. He's been working with NewTek since 1999. He's helped manage the support department and key accounts, and now he's managing the Southwest territory for NewTek. I've had the pleasure of him helping some of my customers, and he's worked with setting up shows for both corporate and live sporting events. Donnie, you want to fill in anything I might have missed?
Yeah, I mean, I've basically done a number of different things, obviously, since I've been with NewTek for so long. I've done, from support to technical support to helping do beta testing, as well as some repairs, whenever needed, just because I was managing the support group. And then I've worked with key accounts, from the NBA to doing concerts as well. I helped switch a game for the D-League with the NBA back in the day as well. And so it's just a normal progression since the way things are going, it's getting more technical. We're doing video stuff. Normally we'd be running SDI cables, and now it's getting more of a technical world in terms of like getting to IP with video IP stuff. So that's where making the change for me really made sense, because we're all salespeople at some point, but we really need to start understanding the technical aspect of it as well, which is why me moving over to sales really made a good impact, because they needed somebody who understood the workflow and the technical background of putting everything together, which is why I decided to move over into sales and start doing my own territory, so that I could really help people like Glenn get more involved in that IP trend that's coming around.
So the next gentleman is on my right here. He's been a partner in crime for years. He had supported me 25 years ago. He was in the technical department up in Chicago for JVC Professional Products. I can't say enough of the man. He works as hard as I do to help support our customers and to make you a success. Rob, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing for JVC.
Yeah, well, I've been, Rob Yarish is the name, and I've been with JVC for over 31 years. And the first 25 of that was in technical support. So I know the product inside and out. I've got a long history with the company. And similar to what you were talking about, there came a time when my value to the company was not just my technical experience, but my customer experience over the years. I brought to sales all the people I've worked with and collaborated with, supported in my 25 years in service, and that really helped with the broadcast side of the business as well. So I support a lot of broadcast, and I support a network of dealers in about 16 states. So it keeps me pretty busy, but I've enjoyed the sales side of things just because you never give up your old hats. I'm still the service support for so much of what we sell, but back in the day, we needed 4 service departments around the country, and now we have 1 service department, and they're not real busy because product reliability is incredible compared to, you know, the old tape days and things like that. Cameras are much more reliable. So the product line is really exciting at this point because we're getting into IP connectivity. Our latest product is referred to as the connected cam, and that involves IP connectivity, bonded cellular options, and full networking for servers, debonding routers, a full system for getting a signal from just about anywhere to just about anywhere. So that's what we're working with now.
The next gentleman I want to introduce is Brian Riesdorf. Brian brings years of experience in engineering to his role leading the technical and support teams over at Promax, and has been at the forefront of file production since digital cameras were first adopted. He had worked as an editor, a digital image technician, as a CGI, computer graphics, and VFX artist on a wide variety of video productions. Brian's knowledge of complex technical issues and digital workflows gives him a unique understanding of Promax customers and the challenges they face every day in video production. Always on top of the industry advancements and new technology, Brian contributes guidance and direction to Promax development, system design, and engineering.
Hi. Yeah, so Promax in general, you know, in my role at Promax, I manage the support team. I also, you know, our support team does a lot of the hardware engineering as well with our systems. You know, there's a whole ecosystem that happens after the capture and live production, you know, that exists, and really that's where Promax has made its bread and butter. And I've been involved in a lot of different scenarios and environments where, you know, I've worked with the military where we've done a lot of large footage or large footage library type operations. Had one of the first RED cameras in the country, which was a very fun experience because there was literally no workflow for that when those first came out. And it's been a very interesting ride from, you know, kind of the beginning of the digital file revolution. So yeah, we're more into the storage side of the world, but you know, we now have some direct connections with the production side, and we'll probably be getting into that.
The next gentleman I want to introduce is Mike Benke. Mike has 20 years in the industry with experience as an entrepreneur, an innovator, and an integrator. Mike is part of the team that brought Trinity and Globecaster to the world, the first Windows-based all-in-one production switcher and editing system. Mike is focused on transforming his original system to support technologies such as NDI and other capture hardware with his Telestration and Paint software. Mike's a tech support guy. He's focused on offering high value, low cost solutions for people doing live events. I'd like to pass the mic to...
Well, I couldn't have said it better. Thanks, Glenn. I think probably like a lot of you guys, I just really enjoy doing this stuff. You know, I fell into this in 98. I moved here in 2000 for Play and Global Streams, and you know, yeah, trying to solve problems, video related, and deliver solutions that what do you enjoy using. So I appreciate everybody coming out today and you know, hearing what this great panel has to say and show, and you know, hopefully we can help you in some way, solve some problem, or you know, add some feature that you're looking to add to what you do. So yeah.
So lastly but not least, I'm Glenn Wolk, owner of Video Assistance Company. This is our 32nd year in business. If you haven't noticed by now, we're all about support. Support is the only thing that matters. This stuff has to work together. You have to be successful. You have to have someone you can rely upon. And these experts here are a good representation of the support that you're going to receive. I specialize in IP workflows for professional audio and video and workstation-grade computers and servers in the field of live streaming with single and multi-camera switching systems, remote control camera systems, and content playout servers. Our best clients are houses of worship, educational facilities, live sports, performing arts centers, communication systems, production facilities, TV studios, corporate and city access studios. And as you are well aware, we provide installation, setup, training, and support to our clients. My customers have told me this: Glenn, you are a lifesaver. And I feel that we work as a bridge between the manufacturers and our clients. So what I want to talk about today is what are the trends, what's happening, what are the markets, what's hot, and how we can be of benefit to everyone in this room. So with that, I guess the first thing we should talk about, since my business is IP based, is NDI. We're at 3.7.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about NDI 4.0 in the future. Yes. I'm going to hand the mic to Donnie.
In NDI, in case anybody isn't aware, NDI was a protocol that we as NewTek created, and we wanted to make it as simple as possible for people to move over to IP. And the way for us to do that was to create this NDI protocol for people to use and then to release it to the market. So what we did is we kept a version for ourselves that we integrated into our systems, and we had already been doing video over IP for years with our iVGA client. So for us to make this jump to NDI was really simple because we were already doing it. But in turn, making it available for everyone to use, even our competitors are integrating it into their systems because they realize it's such an easy workflow to adopt. And it makes connectivity between all devices that are bringing video inputs. It allows you to get a lot more production value, a lot more sources and resources available to bring in terms of content. So we're no longer being limited by, oh, well, how far am I running this SDI cable, or what do I have to convert this video to? We're putting it all on the network, and because of the way our discovery works, it allows us to see those sources when you're plugging them in, whether it's using our Connect Sparks or even using our scan converter software that you just run on a desktop. It allows you to bring that content directly in, and we already have thousands of people who've downloaded the SDK and are starting to integrate it into their software just because it allows them to move that video around, it gives them more options to tell a better story and increase their production value. A lot of different people are adding it in. Promax is recently working on their NDI as well as Mike is having NDI. And if we visit like NDI Central is a webpage that shows all the different companies that are now integrating NDI into their workflows, because there's this big move of going from your standard baseband over to IP, just because allowing you to communicate with all your devices, it makes it a much simpler process.
Great. So again, we're talking about IP. I know JVC has a unique IP communications engine that they introduced out at NAB and the Connect Cam. And one of the things that I was really amazed is they won 4 awards already. Red Shark gave an award, TV Technology gave a Best of Show award, Digital Video Magazine, and then Streaming Media Magazine gave it Best of Show award. And it hasn't even shipped yet until now. And I'm very excited about it. Tell us more about it.
Well, the Connected Cam is actually going to be a series of products, and we're beginning with our new 2/3 inch 3 CMOS chipset that's a high dynamic range capability. Our Connected Cam is really continuing the success we've had and developed over time with our 800 series cameras and the 660 camera, even our 4K cameras, the 200, 250 camera, have built-in streaming capabilities. What we're adding is built-in Wi-Fi antennas with the option of a modular bonded cellular capability built into the camera, and our streaming protocols are basically industry standard protocols like UDP, RTP, RTSP, RTMP. We also, though, have a Zixi protocol, which is a high-end protocol with error correction capabilities and variable bit rate, which is much more in demand on the broadcast level as far as something that has a error correction capability that with cellular connectivity and Wi-Fi and the combination of the two technologies, we can get cameras anywhere in a city or suburbs or anywhere close to cellular antennas where you can get a signal back to a station and get it to broadcast. One of the greatest examples currently is in Mexico. Televisa has 22 locations. I think there are 25 or 6 cameras that are all running off of a single server, and we can actually access the server in New Jersey to make sure that they are running all the time and monitoring their dropouts and things like that and recovery rates of the system. So the entire country of Mexico is run off of a single server, and this is the capability that JVC has with a broadcast level IP connectivity. That's primarily what we're focusing on, although it is certainly usable in a number of applications, even when you're talking about the smaller handheld cameras, a $2,000 4K camcorder that can stream for you as well. So we have a pretty versatile product line.
One of the things that I really enjoy about the JVC's unique IP communications engine is that you learn on a smaller camera, you learn the menu structure, then you can go to a broadcast camera with a real piece of glass on the front of it, and it's an easy learning curve to get into a higher end camera. I do have a question. One of the first things I noticed about Connected Cam, Rob, was it's got an RJ45 connection.
Yeah.
Built into the camera head. That's the first camera head on the broadcast camera I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And this is everyone's been asking me, is it going to support NDI?
Currently
And when?
Currently, it's not supporting NDI. It may in the future, but primarily for some of our other products, you'll see us packaging the Spark with it.
Okay, cool.
So that may be an option. I can't really say much beyond that as far as where we're at right now, but certainly we're paying attention to NDI.
So you mentioned the JVC 4K camera. Here's a question I have for Donnie. I read that 4K is about a 200 megabits per second stream. When is the Connect Spark Pro 4K going to be available, or when are you shooting for it to be available?
For me or for him?
Yeah. If you can get that question, I would appreciate that one.
Yeah,
but,
no. That's what 4K streaming.
Yeah,
we're not there
it's
yet.
something that we did want to bring that out in third quarter, and we're still, obviously third quarter's, here, but we're hoping to have that come out pretty soon. I was actually hoping to have one to bring out with me, because 4K it's a very big topic right now, and a lot of people are working in it already. So having an option for NDI for it through a Connect Spark would be really great. Obviously, we're doing 4K already with our NCIO boxes, but if anybody's seen the Connect Spark, itself for our HDMI or SDI, the boxes are really small as opposed to an NCIO where you're rack mounting it. Having a camera that you plug in, or a Spark Pro you plug in via HDMI and then plug it into your network would make it really simple. And it changes the workflow for a lot of people who want to work in and those higher resolutions. And so it's something we're hoping to come out fairly soon, and hopefully I'll get mine shortly so I can start bringing it out for demos too. But I know it's something that's on everybody's mind right now.
Okay, good. So since we're on the same topic of NDI, I had a question for Brian about Promax storage. You had just came back from IBC in Amsterdam, and you showed me some pretty cool stuff. This is beta software, but what are your thoughts? Where's that headed?
Yeah, so we have a lot of government clients, a lot of education clients, and the one thing that we've heard constantly over the last year and a half, or a little bit longer, is when are you guys going to support NDI? Do you have anything for NDI? And so we've started to build out a system where we can actually pick up the NDI streams that are on the network and record them directly to the primary storage. So our storage systems are largely designed as kind of the central tier 1 editing storage for most facilities for the post-production side. And the ability to kind of record directly in parallel to what's happening on the TriCaster means that you can record your ISOs directly to your rated protected storage. You don't have to fill up the TriCaster side of things, and you don't have to stress the TriCaster any more than you already are with your live production. And you can have editors who are already directly connected, who normally edit off the Promax system, be able to pick up those streams and start cutting with it pretty much instantly. So it's a very compelling workflow for groups that do beyond just the initial live production, that want to start cutting trailers, promos, whatever, based on the live footage, and just get right into it.
So I just saw a video on YouTube with Andrew Cross was talking about NDI 4.0, and he was talking about being able to take the protocol and give it directly to you folks, so that you can, folks that are using Adobe Premiere or After Effects or the Creative Cloud Suite can go right out of the storage system directly with the protocol and record right to hard disk. I had last year, we had John Deere Tractor come to our Fall Technology Summit. They have 22 TriCaster systems. I took a tour of his global operations facility. I can see a tremendous opportunity for going directly from their network anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and recording to your storage.
Yeah.
So, you're on the right track is what I'm trying to say.
Good.
So the next thing is, folks have been asking me about graphics, telestration, animation. And I want to hand this one over to Mike Benke about Panimation. He's got a new app. How does it support NDI?
Yeah, so recognized immediately that NDI was going to change the industry. And there has always been interest in, I shouldn't say always, but we've known since 2000, sorry, we've known since 2000, or even really before that, when streaming first started. Like, we're talking about real networks and Windows Media Player being the real delivery mechanisms, that video was going to be over IP, and our effort back in that time frame was much more complicated, I'll say, with respect to like Globecaster and what we were doing with an Ethernet output. It was basically just SDI compressed to 320 by 240 over an Ethernet cable, and it didn't have any of the sophisticated things that NDI has. So as soon as I saw NDI, I was like, that's the right way to do this. And so, and the fact that New Tech was kind enough to keep it an open or not proprietary, but an architecture that we could employ was huge. I was like really struggling with the way forward, frankly, with our technology. We were looking at having to redesign hardware and, or also support off-the-shelf hardware by makers like AJA and Blackmagic and, all those capture cards that you guys, I'm sure, have a box full of or computers full of already. So we're definitely doing that as well, but we believe that the future is in IP distribution. And, the alternatives out there are expensive, if we're talking about SMPTE and these things, hard to deploy, hard to manage, And all those things are what NewTek got right. Focusing on the customer, looking at their existing infrastructure. You know, so many of us that do video, you know, historically have not been the same people that manage the networks and manage, you know, email and all that other stuff. We kind of have a counterpart, and sometimes that counterpart and us don't get along very well. You know, you want to open what ports to who? You know, so, you know, the fact that they were able to see that pain point and address it, you know, has just made it a no-brainer for me to completely wrap my arms around it and take what little bit of money I have after working as a tech support guy for this company forever, and, you know, call the guys up in California that are friends of mine and say, okay, it's time to dust this old thing off and start deploying this new method of moving video. Our first effort was in the graphics side of the house, simply because our graphics tool could already do the higher resolution format stuff. So we started with Panimation, which is a CG 2D paint and animation tool. So if you're a school and you want to add an extra seat for your graphics, you know, and you want to do it on, I don't want to say on the cheap, but for less money than maybe some of the other tools that are out there that are great tools as well. You know, we start at 95 bucks. You know, and that means the software, which you can download for free and try for a month, but it'll work on like any Windows PC. You know, we started writing this code back when NT was what people bought as an operating system. So like the requirements of the computer are very little, is my point. It obviously will benefit from a better, faster PC, just like anything else, but the barrier to entry is low. You know, the ease of use, depending on what you want to do, I'm not going to lie, if you want to make a custom animated intro, you know, it helps if you know Photoshop, it helps if you know After Effects, it helps if you're that kind of person. And we all know that, you know, it takes a special kind of person to commit to creating animated graphics. Learning those applications can be pretty deep learning curve. So that's why we came out with Telestrator. So Telestrator, we sort of massaged out the important tools in our live paint and animation tool set into a user interface that a coach could pick up quickly or a student could pick up quickly without having to know anything about, you know, keyframes or, you know, vector-based tools, any of that stuff, right? So we just want to put the dashboard in front of a guy, sit him down, you know, maybe it's a color commentator, and they can just start going without even thinking about it. So NDI is another, I mean, it's also another great way for us to do that because, you know, we're not sitting them in front of a big machine with loud fans and, you know, I mean, it can work on a touchscreen computer. It can work on, I have a $90 tablet that I bought on Amazon that I'll be demoing this on today somewhere. Oh, it's charging over there actually. So anyway, I feel like I've been going on forever. So anyway, come see it. And yeah.
So Mike, thank you. You brought up a good point about graphics. We have a lot of houses of worship that use ProPresenter. They are now supporting NDI directly. So I'm very excited about that. It's a recent upgrade if you have 5 to version 6. You also mentioned IP distribution. So NDI toolset 3.7 I just installed. I always install the most recent build of both software and firmware on these cameras. NDI 3.7 has a picture-in-picture capability now. So you can do some things that you couldn't do, you know, in the past. One of the things I wanted to talk about was all the different markets that all of our products serve. The live streaming market, live sports, esports. You know, these are all some cool markets that are just now becoming available. And I thought we'd start with esports. Donnie, you want to say anything about that?
Esports is it's really interesting because if you think about it, you know, the way esports started out was just a bunch of guys playing games. They wanted to watch each other play games. And it's starting to expand so dramatically and so quickly that all these larger companies are looking at it. And working with NewTek, it was really simple for us because we were already doing, video over IP. We already had video on the network. Well, the gaming systems and everything, they're on the network, they're running on computers. So for us, it was really interesting to see people taking this standard production broadcasts, for sporting, take it into esports for video games. And I mean, we've started doing stuff with Twitch and, with a number of different companies. And it just made sense that we can pull these video feeds in from these computers using our scan converter software that comes free with NDI tools, by the way. We like using that word free because it makes it really easy for these people. But when we decided to make our TC1 line and our IP series line, we quickly realized that, hey, well, our standard systems, you only have so much room on the back of a system to bring in inputs. When you're talking about SDI connectors, even if we go back to analog, there's only so many ports you can put on a system without the box exponentially growing. Once you start doing stuff over IP and you're no longer having to have that connection on the system and it's coming in from a computer generated source, well, you can grow the amount of inputs you're looking at. If we look at our IP series, we're bringing in 44 inputs directly on the system. Before it, you look at a TC1, it's like, oh, it's 16 inputs. That's a lot of inputs. You start looking at esports and the amount of inputs you go through using esports, because your standard team, you could have, a 4-on-4 team. Well, you're talking about 8 computer inputs you're bringing in. Then you want to have casters or commentators who are going to be talking about it. Then you have to talk about players who have their own social media pages, and they want to have cameras on them as well. So you just went from 8 to 16 to 20 different sources bringing in. If I'm talking about a switcher that I'm now going to use 20 SDI inputs for, and not counting that on those systems, I'll have to do conversion if I'm taking out of the display. Well, then I have to have some kind of adapter, and I have to worry about sync. When we're talking about esports and IP, everything's coming over the network. Even if we wanted to bring audio from those sources, NDI is allowing us to bring audio and video together at the same time, so I'm not worrying about any kind of sync issues I'm going to run into. Everything is just coming directly in. It allows for more seamless integration, and you start building this whole ecosystem around IP and the esports coming into it. And there's professional teams, there's even arenas being built and outfitted for these esports tournaments. So it's turning into a really big market for a lot of these people.
Interesting. One thing, now going back to live sports, I went to the NewTek website, and because I always like to look at success stories and some of their user profiles. And one of the things I was just flabbergasted with was down in San Salvador, they have 12 stadiums, and they have completely networked every stadium with NDI. And they did the live streams for the World Cup all over the IP series TriCasters because they can't afford to have a system in every stadium. So what they're doing is when the NDIs are bringing in the content over their IP. And that, and then on the opposite side, for IP distribution, I have a lot of customers that want to take the content from their sanctuary and either go to an overflow building or a multi-purpose room. NDI is bidirectional, so you'll be able to feed TV monitors. Mike and I had a conversation over lunch one day about being able to, we've been delivering content with content delivery networks with playout servers. So NDI is going to change that equation because the cost, of what do you call those, Intel sticks?
Yeah, the Intel Compute Stick.
Yeah, the cost of those sticks are just unbelievably inexpensive.
Cost of everything has come down so much.
Yeah.
Easy to bring, just like he was saying, tons of sources in.
But the next thing I want to talk about, since we're talking about live streams, is 5G. So 5G is 10 times the bandwidth of 4G LTE. 10 times. So right now, a lot of the Charter it has a 100 meg download, 200 meg download maybe I've seen as a high. They're going to roll out right now. There's a half a dozen cities across the U.S. that are rolling out 5G, and you're talking 300 megabits per second to start, up to a gigabit for live streaming. So I wanted to talk to Rob about how that's going to affect our connected cam customers and literally all the streaming cameras that JVC delivers.
Well, with our cellular options, it's really we're not locked into anything. You know how our
you have a slot.
cameras have USB ports for modems. It has Cat 5 connector. You have on the new connected cam, you have a slot for modules to plug into. Currently, it has 2 Wi-Fi antennas plugged into it, but we're going to offer a bonded cellular solution that will plug into the module, and that's it. So it's just a matter of being able to retrofit a camera to what the latest technology is. We've always maintained that, even with the camera this is being shot with right now is a camera that's could be 5 or 6 years old, but it would be upgradable to the latest technologies because we've accounted for that in our designs.
So a lot of the broadcasters, Rob, are carrying these big backpacks with the multiple cellular modems. Being able to stick a 5G modem in a slot in the camera, I see that as a huge marketing advantage.
Well, certainly,
over all the broadcasters carrying all that, cellular bonded
yes,
stuff. Yes,
we have the option to plug in a module. If we build a module for that, when it becomes popular enough for us to build a module for it, we'll be able to plug it in. And certainly, we have external devices as well that I have a package in the back there that runs off of an Anton Bauer brick that's got big antennas on it, and it's just a matter of loading the SIM cards into it. And if there's a firmware upgrade required to account for 5G, that actually the device I have there now, I think, is already prepared for 5G.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, but we continue to grow as the technology grows. We have the flexibility to add features to our products.
One of the things that I really enjoy as being one of your valued resellers, the fact
is
that your cameras are firmware upgradable.
Yep.
I mean, I just had a customer who bought a camera 3.5 years ago.
Yep.
And we just installed 3 Pan-Tilton zoom cameras in Wichita, Kansas. It's a sanctuary.
Yep.
And he upgraded his firmware, and he was like, it all works.
All free upgrades, yeah. Our firmware updates are all at no charge. Now there are some certain things, like we have a graphics capability on our 4K camcorders that is actually sold as a separate model, our sports version and a house of worship version. But beyond that, everything up to now has been a free upgrade.
So with ProMax, where do you see your company going in the future?
Well, I think some of the things that the other folks here have mentioned, you talk about like esports in general, where you're talking 20 streams, 4K gaming is absolutely a thing. You're talking 4K streams, 20 of them. That's not something, you're going to be able to deal with very easily from a storage perspective. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, there's a whole ecosystem beyond just the moment of live production and the moment of broadcast. And, a big part of just making money in this industry is just repurposing footage, knowing what you have available to produce new content. A big part of what we do is not necessarily just the storage side. I mean, there's the infrastructure part and the data integrity side, but we've also got some asset management solutions that are built into our system. We've got LTO backup for long-term archival. We're working on some cloud connectivity as well for more of that data integrity side. But there's just everything else that the amount of data that's coming out of this side of the room has to go somewhere. And it goes out on on the air, on the web, but for repurposing and for rebroadcast and for recutting, nobody wants to throw anything away anymore. Like you're going to keep footage. I think most people out there, have digital files from, probably before they even remember when they started throwing things on a computer. So, the more storage, the more organization around the storage. It's really not about storage space anymore. It's about finding what's on the storage space, and being able to keep organized. And a big part of our product is built around the integrated asset management and being able to stay organized about what you have. So,
Thank you. I was really impressed. I was talking with that gentleman back there about JVC Video Cloud, how he had used the Wi-Fi capability and wireless capability of his 4G LTE modem to upload the JVC Video Cloud. Would you talk a little bit more about Video Cloud for us?
Well, we do offer a cloud service. It's not very well known, but there are other cloud services out there available as well. But we have different ways of dealing with. There's a direct cloud service for what Jim is doing here. We have a Zixi cloud service for those who use the Zixi protocol. There is a debonding cloud service for those who use the bonding cellular systems. So it's just a matter of making sure that we can provide the services needed if you're not acquiring that type of service elsewhere.
Thank you so much, Rob. So, Donnie, with New Tech, how are they addressing the cloud?
It's something we're taking a look at, just because a lot of services are starting to become online, and so it's something that we're having to look at. Obviously, the streaming side of it, we've narrowed down really well, partnering with a bunch of different, going in and making like our API for signing into Facebook, and it's something that we always have to keep on the forefront, is with all this new technology coming out, and so it's stuff that we're always looking at, and so. It's always interesting to see how we're going to end up developing toward it. So, cool. We'll see how we develop on it.
Okay. Mike, with all the remote, remember the old tractor trailers when they'd send out trucks? Now you can output your 3-play, you can output your TriCaster over the network, and you can draw your frames right on, as far as telestration, right on the frames of video. Tell me more about your telestration. And how it supports 3-play and TriCaster.
Sure. Before I do that, though, I just want to mention something about the cloud, too.
Oh, okay.
I don't like the cloud. I hate usernames and passwords. I forget them all the dang time. All right? I see the value there. The whole software as a service thing. Adobe share price has ballooned like 300% since they decided to go that way. I get it. I'm not the cloud. You certainly can save content that you're creating with my tools to the Dropboxes or your network, whatever you want to do, no problem. But I'm still kind of an old school guy. I'm a desktop app. You can install it on however many computers you want. I'm not gonna, I ask if you're, in more than one facility. Say you're a school district, maybe buy a copy for each school in your district instead of just going crazy with it. But I don't want to stand in the way of anybody creating content, and I can barely get into Facebook sometimes because I can't remember my username and password. So that said, I get it. I love it. But anyway, so that's my take on the cloud. And now as far as what you were mentioning with the, the amount of kit that was involved in doing a live sporting event, rolling trucks and stuff like that, is obviously completely shrunk down with tools like TriCaster that can do so much in such a small footprint. In terms of graphics, it's the same thing. Obviously, the tool that I offer can be used for pre-production if you're making graphics ahead of the game or ahead of your event, for lower thirds or whatever you want to make. But during the live event for, say, sports, telestration, or not even just sports, could be a medical theater type thing, or news, kind of weathery kind of stuff. You know, the thing that I'm trying to do is keep the user interface as simple and intuitive as possible, and the connectivity to the rest of the workflow as simple as possible. So, you know, today I'm struggling a little bit with the wireless with the hotel in terms of connectivity with the rest of this stuff, and I forgot my little dongle to hook into my my little iPad thing to get onto a wired network. But you know, basically one Ethernet cord, you know, Cat 5, Cat 6, you know, is what we're talking about. And I've got.
Can you tell us about how it triggers and controls?
Yes. So one of the, I guess, one of my customers that has embraced this thing to the fullest is a guy down in Alabama. His name is Jim Jacobs. And he is his career, his whole thing that he does, guys like, and he's retired from a previous career. But I mean, this guy's doing $150,000 to $200,000 a year covering high school football in Alabama. And he's got a truck, or I should say a trailer, one of these like Wells Cargo, I think they call it, a trailer that he's outfitted with kit, you know, gear. And he's got some cameras on sticks that he sets up at these games. This guy's a master at marketing. He'll go into a town and, you know, collect the local Ford dealer, you know, the local optometrist, you know, all the guys who are interested in advertising at a high school event, which you can do in Alabama. Can't do it in Texas, unfortunately. Can't do live football in Texas. It has to be after the last game is played. They can live, you know, put up the stream of the game. But anyway, this guy is using some of the API controls that we put into our Telestrator tool, just web get controls, if that means anything to you guys, that allow you to send commands to TriCaster, to OBS, to vMix, to, you know, all these different tools that are out there, you know, to send commands like play, pause, jog shuttle frames, you know, if you're doing work. So that a guy who is a coach, you know, again, or a color commentator that he's hired for the event, can right there in front of his, where he's drawing his lines and stuff, see some nice big buttons with, you know, a play button and a pause and, you know, things that he's used to using, you know, even at his own house, to control this really sophisticated technology that may be off in that trailer, you know, and he just ran an Ethernet cord to it. So, you know, interoperability, is that a word? Is what I like. You know, the first thing I try to do when I look at, you know, the tool that I'm offering is, you know, how does this work into the workflow with others? How can I simplify the amount of kit that a person needs to do the kind of things they want to do? So, you know, playing with Telestrator, the first thing that I learned was I need to be able to stop this clip so that I can draw a circle around it, you know? So the options at the time were you could buy a MIDI controller, or you could buy a X keys type device, or rely on, you know, keyboard shortcut kind of stuff. But that didn't feel good enough to me. So I'm always looking at that kind of thing, and being able to play and pause and run the DSK remotely is an important part of doing that. So.
Sounds good. My next question is for Rob about trends.
What do I know about
Trends for JVC, trends for the future. Where are we headed? I mean, there's so much technology out there.
Well, that's a complicated question. It's not a simple question.
Let's simplify it a little bit for fiber. I know there's a camera fiber backs for the connect your cam, but
Well,
have
yeah.
IP engines that you can communicate with the fiber back.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that and how a fiber
Well-
connectivity could help a school or a
Of
Church.
course, our full-size cameras have a fiber back option. We partner with a company called Multidyne. We also work with the Grass Valley Fiber Systems, but We focus on multi-dyne primarily because of their base stations offer the ability to run 3 cameras into one base station, or 2 into one base station. There's an option for a double unit as well. But also with their fiber system, we're able to pull a Cat5 connection off of the camera and feed that down the fiber. So now off of the back of the base station, you can tap the Cat5 for a camera. So you can have 1,000 feet of fiber and then tap the Cat5 off of the back of the base station.
And use it with a switch
And
and the CCU?
use it with just about anything. I mean, being that it's essentially a hardwire connection to the camera, you can be full bandwidth. You know, the higher data rates that are available for streaming. So we have those options. There, as far as the hardwired solutions, fiber, considering fiber as a hardwired solution, our ability to marry a fiber with the networking capability is really a breakthrough with this multi-dyne system. And then of course we focus a lot on the Wi-Fi and networking capabilities of our cameras, as well with the next generation of camera as part of the connected cam family would be the new 1-inch 4K camcorders that we just introduced at IBC that will be out in early 2019. And those are similar to what you see with our 3-chip 3rd-inch cameras as far as the body style goes, but they're going to have the connected cam capabilities that the full-size camera has. For the most part, you'll be able to streaming live from the camera, as well as recording multiple HD and 4K formats. We also are in a PTZ world with cameras that have SDI, HDMI plus streaming capabilities from our PTZs. So we're really looking forward to keeping up with all the latest technologies, with keeping our products flexible for innovations in LTE, 5G, streaming capabilities. So it's just a matter of developing, maintaining products that are capable to be upgraded to keep up with technologies.
Thank you, Rob. One of my customers has a D9 camera, and he loves the camera. And NewTek has provided a solution with a Connect Spark, to take his SDI, and now it's an IP camera. So I love hearing that. Could you talk a little bit more about Donnie, or if you pass it to Donnie, about how he can repurpose his camera and bring that content in through Connect Spark?
Right, and that was one of the important things for us, was because we realized that when you start talking about hardware, it's really hard to add some of these new features to older hardware. And being this huge movement over to IP ecosystems, we needed to have a way for people to still keep using some of the stuff they're using, because we always see upgrades come and you see new hardware, everything come out, but a lot of times it's finding the funding to do all these upgrades. And so sometimes, okay, I can upgrade my switcher, but I got to wait on my cameras, or I can upgrade cameras, or I need to work on my graphics program. And we looked at that opportunity or that challenge for customers and thought, you know what, this is a great opportunity for us to try to help them. And doing so, coming out with the Spark allowed them to use some of their older cameras and allows them to either go either HDMI or SDI and use those cameras still, even though they're moving toward an IP workflow, right? And so we're still helping them work within this budget that they're using, because sometimes, you know, you buy a camera right as new technology is coming out, and then you have a camera that you, well, I still want to integrate that camera with what I'm doing. You know, if I want to future-proof myself with, you know, with my newer switcher, but I'm waiting on my camera. Well, that's why the Spark was really great, because now we can take that SDI, that HDMI, convert it over to NDI, and then now you're using that camera on your IP workflow. And you're not going out and redoing any kind of infrastructure for it. Or you get a new IP camera, but now you have this HDMI SDI camera that's no longer working for that spot. You just move it to a new location. As long as you're not running new cabling for it, you plug it into a network somewhere along the way, and now you're able to repurpose that camera. So it gives you an opportunity to go for, you know, a hybrid upgrade, but still allowing yourself to get into this IP world that everybody is moving toward.
Thank you, Donnie. I wanted to, since we're on the subject of IP and NDI, you and I had a conversation about, like, I've got multiple churches that have they've got multi-purpose rooms. They want to put, you know, anywhere from 6 to 10 cameras on campus, but they want to be able to have that content go to their storage and, like you mentioned, bypass the TriCaster altogether. Would you talk a little bit more about what you're doing in those efforts?
Yeah, so that's kind of plays directly into kind of the NDI implementation on our storage servers, where we're literally just looking at the network for the NDI stream, and we're pulling that directly. So what the TriCaster is working with, we're just recording the ISO straight to the disk. And you know, with every advancement that
So
these guys make,
simultaneous recording.
absolutely. Yeah, so with every advancement that these guys make on the other side here, you know, all that's doing is giving us more and more data and easier access to it. So, you know, the ability to kind of record that as close to the source as possible is huge in simplifying that workflow, because, you know, and this is a big thing with Promax in general, and I've heard it from these guys as well, you know, having the workflow at your disposal is one thing. Having it be easy enough and intuitive to actually accomplish what you're trying to do is probably the harder part. Getting the technology in place is you know, not trivial, but getting it where you can use it effectively is really the key to a fantastic product, and that's what we're always working towards. So
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna have to wrap this up. Did any of you have any final thoughts? So I'm gonna start with Mike.
Well, I'll just reiterate the one thing about trends is, like, you either need to make friends with your IT person or become your IT person. Okay? Good answer. Yeah. That's the first thing. Second, I mean, you know, this is nothing new. We all know that this is where it's all been going for years and years. I mean, we keep trying to stuff this thing into our heads so we don't have to hold them in our hands anymore. But, you know, I/O, I mean, you look at visionaries when, you know, like Elon Musk talks about, you know, I/O being the barrier between, you know, as much data as we want to put in and get out of these things. You know, that's always going to be where the focus is. And, you know, this NDI thing is obviously a new form of I/O and helps us get all that data in there quicker. So, you know, yeah, as far as trends are concerned, you know, I think you're right in the middle of it right here in this room. You know, with the focus being on, you know, transforming your infrastructure from a traditional coax SDI type thing, or coexisting, I should say, right now in this moment. But, you know, the transformation is on its way. So that's the big deal. Yeah.
I think we've covered everything pretty well, and I think everybody has seen from different aspects how NDI is really changing the broadcast world. And the big thing to keep in mind is just that, you know, it's something that the IP workflow, it's here, and it's just going to keep moving forward. SDI is slowly backing away just because of how easy it is to deploy with NDI. We have discovery on the networks. You're not configuring really anything. I've gone to several places where I've just plugged in, my NDI camera and it's working, or I plug in my laptop so I can bring in my PowerPoint presentation. And the big thing is making it easy enough for people to use so that they can easily have their sources on the network, whether it's going to be cameras or telestration or it's going to be storage. It's a whole ecosystem that we're working on developing, and we're making it even easier for people to use so there's not these roadblocks that they're hitting down the way. And, it's really important, our IT people that we're now starting to work with, like Mike said, it's a good idea to make friends with them because they're going to be the ones that are helping us, implement these solutions. And the IP trend that we're seeing, it's just going to keep moving and growing forward and forward, going forward. I don't think I could say forward any more than that.
All right, all right.
Final thoughts, Rob?
Well, from a hardware standpoint, there's always the effort to maintain versatility and flexibility, and of course, in our business, we're always concerned about image quality as well. And so you're talking about 4K, you're talking about HD with high dynamic range capabilities. Everybody's always looking for better image quality, and even in the streaming world, we're looking for better image quality. So that's really the trend that we have to pay attention to, is maintaining good image quality, because everybody wants everything to look like it's 3D, but 3D is dead. So.
Yeah, I think from a storage perspective, the trend that we've seen probably the most is, storage is largely a commodity at this point. There's any number of different kind of devices that you can get to just store data on. But what it really comes down to is the storage management and the organization of the data that you've got. Because again, with every advancement that these guys make, it's just more and more data coming at you, and being able to intelligently store that and work with that. We're rapidly probably approaching a point where the good old folders and directory systems that we're all used to is probably not enough anymore. The advanced searching, everybody, the generation coming up now simply searches for things, and it's just handed to them on a platter. And those kind of interfaces are going to be, the standard moving forward, and the engines behind that to be able to search your content intelligently and actually bring that stuff to the forefront, so that your production teams can use those. Is really the next step. Once all this crazy amount of data comes into the systems, you've got to be able to organize and use it. And so that's kind of, to go back to the cloud situation, really from a storage perspective, we're still kind of on a fledgling entry into the cloud just because of the sheer amount of data that's in play there. There's really not the bandwidth and whatnot, and the speeds are really not there to do anything significant on the post-production side, outside of just data integrity. But what it really does open up is potential collaboration and remote access, and really that's probably the next step. So, all right.
I would just want to say I'm grateful for my customers that value the important work that we do. Without you folks, I wouldn't be here. This is our 32nd year in business, and it's because of you that we've been able to put this together. And again, I thank you so much for coming today.
Nice job.
Oh, thank you.